All right, so here we have a game
with Polugaevsky.
Polugaevsky.
Yes, knight f3, c5, c4.
Polugaevsky also a Soviet player, right?
Yeah, he was one of the strongest Soviet players in that time. It was a legendary name in chess history, you know.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of very interesting encounters, and each one was a small story like this. Unfortunately for myself, I had some unpleasant memories because I qualified finally Polugaevsky 3 times for the candidates. Each time was very funny. You know, first of all was in Brazil in 73. I had completely winning position. And I made a mistake in time trouble, the last move, you see, time control. And instead of winning the queen and giving mate, you know, first, yeah, I played something else. Now the position was draw. Of course, I analyzed I didn't want draw, and I finished by losing the game. So he could qualify for the for the candidates.
From a winning position, you actually
completely winning. Yeah,
yeah,
it's unbelievable. Yeah, what happened? You know, blackout. I don't understand. Okay. So after 3 years, we played another interzonal in Philippines and in Manila, and again he sacrificed a piece, very complicated position. I defended very well, completely winning position again, piece against 2 pawns, but many pieces, of course, on board. Yeah? So I had again a hallucination. I don't understand what, and I saw that I'm winning immediately in one move, and I sacrificed the rook. So I had a piece for 2 pawns. And instead, I gave the rook, and if you don't win by this sacrifice, you lose the game, of course. So I lost the game again. And he had...
wasn't a forced sacrifice. You decided...
No, I could play something else, of course. I could win by any other move. Yes.
You were sure at the moment that you...
I was sure that I'm winning immediately, you know. So, of course, it was wrong. I lost the game, and he was qualified again for the candidates, you know.
You were his lucky...
Yeah, it happened, of course. No, we are quite good friends otherwise, you know. I mean, very good relationship. So in 79, 3 years later, we played another interzonal in Moscow, in Riga in 79. And I played Polugaevsky the last round. After my game against Tal that I lost and against Troyes, that was this unbelievable blunder, you know, that I lost to Troyes. I had to beat Polugaevsky the last round to be sure that I come into the candidates. A draw was enough for him, you know.
For Polugaevsky.
For Polugaevsky. He played white. He tried to make a draw, of course. Finally, the game was very, very complicated. He came with a home analysis. I improved the home analysis for myself. I was a little bit better all the time. He proposed 6 times draw. This is by this level is unbelievable. You know?
After each move, he was
not each move, but after 3-4 moves like this, he proposed another draw. He was very nervous because he needed draw, you know. So finally, in big tight round, the game was draw, and he was qualifying again, you know, for the candidate. Well, okay. So now it was our first game after Riga, you know, a little bit later. So, okay, I tried again to beat him, but he defended again very well and he made the draw. You'll see how. But as I told you, it was a very interesting story, you know, in between.
Up to this moment.
Yeah, up to this moment. Okay, so after b6, bishop g2, bishop b7, castle, bishop e7. And
what opening is this one?
This is English opening, a special English opening. Black is playing as the so-called hedgehog with black, you know. It's a combination from English opening and Sicilian opening, you know, if you play like this later on. You know, I had a lot of experience with black. And from time to time, I played also with white, like this. You know. So in Riga, instead of d4, he played here b3, bishop b2, and later on he played d4 and he took back with the knight. And that gave no advantage for white, and finally black was a little bit better, and okay, equalized, and black was trying to win the game.
He played also with white?
He played with white also, yeah. But it was another line, as I told you. He played first b3, bishop b2, and after d4, he took back with the knight. And it was very complicated, but the game was very balanced like this. So after d4 immediately, I he took back with the queen. This is the main line of this idea, d6, and now b3, of course. He puts the bishop in b2, and has a better position because he has a little bit more space. White has a little bit more space, always in this line. Okay, so castle, bishop b2, and a6. Black is waiting to see what happens, you see. Now, white can do rook d1, knight d2, queen e3, rook f d1, a lot of moves. e4 was considered to be the best in that time because keeps the many pieces on board, and he has, as I told you before, a little bit more space. This is the idea. Okay, after e4, knight bd7, knight d2, queen c7, rook c1. Okay, little by little.
The idea with this knight here is just
he protects, c4 and d4. He wants to come back later on with the queen in e3, and maybe later on he can play f4 or something like this, having a little bit more space all the time.
Options.
And first he played rook c1 because now he waits for you to play b5 or d5. Rook c1 is a very normal line to avoid this threat, because if you open the c line, black has many problems. Probably is lost for black. So you have to be very careful. So rook e8 is a good move. h3, he prepares again. So bishop f8, b4. Now he tries to have even more space on the queen side. Now after b4, he doesn't give you the possibility to play knight c5 in some lines. You see. So b4. Even more space for white. Okay, so rook c8, and now a3. Okay, he gives you the move, and now you have to have some counterplay with black. It's very difficult because, as you can see, white has much more space, and he controls a little bit the central squares, and black has to keep quiet for the moment and wait a few more moves to see what happens, because if you play very actively here, you have already big problems, So you have to understand very well the strategy.
To open the game now is a little bit...
to open the game now is suicide.
Suicide.
It's very bad. No. So queen b8 is all right. So f4. Okay, again, a lot of space for white, you see.
Yeah.
So bishop c6. This is very important. Now you're preparing to play the move b5. After b5, you have something. I mean, you can play a little bit with black. This is the idea, And you have another idea. You have to combine the two, b5 and e5. This is the idea for black. The counterplay, e5, attacking the queen. Yeah. So, okay. So he played after bishop c6, rook c2. He waits again to see what is going on. And here, e5 first, okay. Now, he doesn't take in e5 because you can take even with the pawn, and you have the diagonal, the bishop from f8 is okay afterwards if you take with white. But he waits again. I mean, if now you can take in f4, after g takes f4, again white is better because again has more space and you have no counterplay for the moment, So right here,
ways for you to go wrong.
You have the possibility again to go wrong. You have to understand very well the strategy here, in this position. And right now, b5. Now you realized both ideas, e5 and b5, and white has to demonstrate why he's better. White has a little bit more space, but he has to play something.
Yeah.
So of course he took in b5, and now again very good move to take with the bishop, because now you can trade a few pieces, being in defensive. I mean, everything is forced. He has to take in b5, otherwise he loses the exchange, He takes, now you take in c2, he takes with the queen, and now he'll take back. Okay, so the result is not so bad for black, because you could trade a few pieces, you can free a little bit the position, you have some counterplay. Black realized completely the idea from this opening, and white, telling the truth, white has nothing here, you see. He's a little bit better, but has nothing, really, you see. So, okay, he waits to see what happens, and right now, h5. This is also very good, because you want something on the king side. If he gives you some time, in some positions, you play only on the black squares, you see. Later on, we can see why, what is the idea, you see. Already here, you have the threat to play immediately h4. And after h4, if he takes the pawns are not important, if he has double pawn on the h line, h file is nothing. And if he pushes and he plays g4, you can take in f4, and he's obliged to take with the rook. And that gives some counterplay for black, because that now you can keep the square e5 for yourself, for black. And it's okay. It's enough to have a very good game for black, you know. So after h5, he's forced to wait or to play something. Okay, he preferred to wait, and he played rook f2. And now after f4, h4, everything is very clear, as I told you before. Now he has to take a decision. Black is already, in my opinion, black is better. You know, if you control this with the computer now, in our days, the machine will tell you that black is clearly a little bit better all the time, you know, because you have a clear idea what to do here with black. You can play always on the black squares. But the problem was that both of us were in time trouble here, you know. And black, if he wants something, he has to realize the idea, and that takes a little bit of time, no? So right now he didn't take in h4, he didn't play g4, he took in e5, which forces the decision. I mean, you are forced to do something. Now it's very clear. He took in e5 and proposed draw. And I had to accept, because I had not so much time on my clock, you see. But if we play if we play a little bit longer, you can take with the knight in e5. He has to take with the bishop, because otherwise he loses a very important tempo, you know. And you have time to take in g3, and that is very unpleasant for white.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, so he has to take. And now, even if you take with the d pawn, even if you take with the rook, in both cases, white is clearly worse, a little bit, but enough, you see.
Why?
So, okay, because now what can you do here with white? If you take, yeah, you can take. If you take, the idea is very clear. Black can play immediately knight h5. And if he puts the knight in f4, the position is critical already for white, you see. If you have time to come with the knight in f4, the knight is fantastic in f4, and you have very strong attacking chances by playing g6, bishop h6, or even rook e6, rook g6. See, very unpleasant position for white, complete defensive. So probably it's better to play g4, not to take in h4, to play g4. But even after g4, you have time to play on the black squares with knight h5, knight g5, knight h7, knight g5, or bishop e7, with the idea to put the bishop on the black diagonal from g5, you see. In both cases, black has a good idea. I mean, he can play.
Clear plan.
Yeah, and white has to look. I mean, white is in a very defensive position and has to try to equalize. It's clear that he lost the advantage, you know.
Yes.
That's nothing.
Yeah.
And black has a very good game. Yeah, but I had almost no time here for about 15 moves or something, you know. So I had to accept draw. But the game was very, very important theoretically, and very interesting also, you know, against a very strong opponent, I mean, you see. Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Mr.
Okay,
Gheorghiu.
you're welcome.